Hey everyone, welcome to another video. This video is gonna be me ranking all of the blushes that I have tried in the year of 2022. So everything I bought and tried the past year, and I have 25 blushes here in front of me, and I'm gonna be telling you which ones were pretty bad and which ones were my favorites. So let's get into it. So you might know that I am a big fan of blush. I love blush so much, and at the start of the year I bought a lot of blushes. I've really slowed down, and I actually believe that I haven't bought a blush in maybe like 6 months. This is mostly, well, that's not entirely true. Like the last thing was maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, 4 months, something like that. But I haven't really bought blushes the past few months. I've really just been using what I have because I bought too many. I mean, 25 blushes in the first 6 months of the year is too much. I'm sorry. I'm saying sorry to myself, but I just have to be honest with myself. It is too much. Imagine if I kept going at that rate, it would have been 50, which is way too much. So I'm just gonna rank everything here, and I have actually had a good chance to try all of these products a lot. My favorites here I have used so much. The worst things I have to say, I did declutter, but before that I really tried them out, and I feel really confident about this ranking. I do have to say that on a different day, a different week, in a different mood, some of these could maybe be bumped up a few places or bumped down a few places, but like the middle part, the top and the bottom, I feel really good about. So the exact places, you can take that with a smidge of salt, but like overall I'm really happy with where everything is. So yeah, let's get into the blushes. So on the last spot we have the Kiko Milano Ultimate Glow Blush. So this is like a very liquidy kind of jelly blush, and I thought that in the packaging this looked amazing, and there's something very mesmerizing about it looking at it like this. But for me it was basically unusable, basically unwearable. It was such a hassle to get this on my face, and even then it would look weird, it would look blotchy, it would be way too pigmented, hard to blend out. This is just a product that for me at least, and for my skin tone and skin type, for me this is not something I can actually use. Well, I can theoretically apply this to my cheeks, but every time I tried it, it looked very strange, very weird, not good at all. It is just way too pigmented. It dries down way too quickly. There's just no way to get this on my cheeks in a flattering way. It just looks like I've been beat up and I'm really sweaty, like very bright pink blotches on my cheeks. Maybe if you have a deeper skin tone or maybe different skin type, I don't know, this could work for you, but this is a product that I was so excited about when I saw it in the store, but for me this is just not something that I could continue using. I just really gave up on this and decluttered this very quickly after I bought it. Then one that I'm really disappointed in, also especially for the price, this was also in my worst makeup of 2022, the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Powder Blush in Creamy Peach. This name, the name Creamy Peach, and the description of the formula made me think that it would look very like natural, sheeny, just yeah, kind of creamy on the cheeks, but in reality it looks very powdery, it looks kind of blotchy, it looks very dry, it has chunky glitters in it, which I don't like at all. I love a glowy blush, I love a glowy cheek, but I don't want any chunkiness. I don't want to be able to count the glitters that are on my face, and this is what that did. So I didn't like this one at all. Every time I applied it, I felt like it was so unflattering. And then also I paid quite a lot of money for it, and before I even really got a chance to use it, like after the first use, and only thing I did was like put it on my table, use it for a video, it already had a scratch on the packaging, and I think that is not great packaging, especially for the price that I paid for this. The packaging just really disappointed me. I'm expecting something to kind of like stay looking somewhat nice in a makeup bag if I wanted to put it in a makeup bag or in my drawer. And this right away had a scratch, and that kind of like ruined the whole vibe for me as well. But yeah, even without the scratch, this formula really disappointed me. Then I have the 2 Chanel blushes that I tried this year. I put them together in this spot. So we have 2 shades, and these are the blush Lumiere from the Chanel summer collection, summer spring collection that they did. And when I saw the promo photos of these, I was like, that looks amazing, that looks so beautiful. This could look so beautiful and sun-kissed, especially if it's a glowy blush. I thought this shade was so like special, so interesting. I felt like it could really be something different, but in a good way. And this is the one in Brun Roussi, and to be honest, these were just too powdery. The pigmentation was nothing to write home about. The shimmers in here are very chunky. The formulation of the Chanel blushes is very similar to the Makeup by Mario one, but even more expensive. These were 65 euros a piece. I paid 65 euros for these, and I applied them, and I kind of hated them. I tried to use them a little bit more, and I feel like this one, it's kind of okay, but for 65 euros, okay, it's not enough. The one that I dislike the most is the one in Peche Rosé, and this one just, there's not a lot of pigmentation. I didn't like the shade. It didn't really show up. I could kind of make it work if I combined these together, but I still felt really disappointed. I was just expecting something really glowy, very like a sophisticated glow, something sun-kissed and just flattering on the skin, and it was powdery, it had chunky shimmers, and it just was way too expensive for what it was. The only thing that I like about it is the way it looks in a pan and the packaging, but that luxury feel, that excitement, that went away really quickly. And I feel like this is my most disappointing purchase of the year, because I spent so much money on these, and these were so disappointing. Then another pretty expensive blush that I couldn't get on with, and I've seen other people really loving this formula. This is the Neonude Melting Color Balm Cheeks and Eyes. I've seen people saying this is their favorite. Before I bought this, I watched so many reviews, I watched so many videos, and I was like, okay, I really want to try this formula. It looks so interesting. This is the shade, by the way, 51. It's kind of like an corally nude almost. It has a very warm undertone. I personally didn't get on with this, and I feel like maybe it's a bit too balmy for me. It just felt a little bit too thin. It didn't look very flattering. I kind of love maybe a slightly thicker cream product, a cream cheek product. Something that kind of smooths over the skin, kind of perfects it, makes it look better. And I feel like this was a bit too sheer, and it didn't really make my skin look better. Every time I use this, I was just like, that could have been better, that could have looked better. Other blushes just look better. And while it is not absolutely terrible, there was just nothing about this that made me want to use it. And since it is such an expensive product, I decluttered it, so that's why it's so low. If this would have been like 10 euros, I would have been like, fine, we'll just get rid of it and I won't think about it again, and it would have been somewhere in the middle. But because it's a bit more expensive and I was extra disappointed in it because of that, I have to be honest, I just want to like tell you why I make certain decisions. Yeah, because of that, I put this quite low. So this is not for everybody, even though I've seen a lot of people raving about it. It is not for everybody. You have to like a little bit more of a sheer, balmy texture. Then next up, I put the Essence blush, the blush in Bedazzling. So I bought this and I was like, Bedazzling, that should be interesting. Maybe it's a glowy version. They have some glowy versions of this. I was really curious. It ended up being their soft matte formula that they do for most of the blush shades, and it ended up being too light for me. For some reason, lighter, very nudie blushes, they don't really work on my skin. I feel like something a little bit more rosy, a little bit more poppy really blends into my skin tone, but something a little bit too nude becomes a little bit muddy. So there's nothing actually wrong with this blush, but there's also nothing really interesting about it. The blush formula is good, and I feel like if you have a skin tone that's a lot lighter than me, or like really nude blushes are your thing, you could still like it. It is not terrible by any means, but to me this is just a very forgettable, kind of boring, not so interesting, kind of disappointing purchase. So I put it a little bit lower, but yeah, it's more of a preference. Then I put the Gigi Alien Cosmetics, now Unearthly Cosmetics blush palette, which is actually just a blush compact single. So I bought this for like €5 with, I think, the Alien Cosmetics matte lipsticks that I tried, I feel at the start of the year, and it looked very interesting, and I still feel like the shade looks really interesting. It looks like something that I would really enjoy, but it is very pigmented, kind of hard to apply. You have to be really careful, and once you have applied it, it doesn't look very interesting. There's just nothing about this that stands out that makes it worth the hassle, and that is why I decluttered this one. It just looks so promising, and then I put it on my cheeks and it kind of just fades into the background.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, it's just very uninteresting, and I'm not gonna work hard for an uninteresting blush. Then next up we have the Sweet Affairs Duo Cacao Blush in 02 Sweet Biscuit. This was from the Kiko Sweet Affairs collection. This is actually still in my makeup collection. The things that I've shown you before, they're all out of my collection, and there's even something higher that I decluttered, but I kept this mainly for this shade, because this shade is a really interesting cool toned peach, and this is such a beautiful like blush topper highlighter, so I love that one. But this shade, the satin in this duo, is just a little bit of a strange color for me. Once again, it is just too nude for me to be a blush, and it just looks a little bit muddy. So there's nothing wrong with this formula. It is actually a top-notch beautiful formula if you want a really nude blush. If you are like the palest of pale, like so paper white, then this is the perfect blush for you. I don't know if it's even still sold, but it would be great for that. If I could wear this shade, it would have been up there. It would have been at the top. But this shade I just can't wear. It doesn't work for me. I don't have a use for it, but this is gorgeous, and that's why I kept it. Because yeah, this is a beautiful baked formula, beautiful baked highlighter, and a shade that I can't really think of where I feel like I haven't really seen it before. It's just an interesting shade. It's a hard thing to come by, so I kept it for that one shade, and I still get excited about this palette for the one shade, but the satin one, don't touch that. And then the Revolution Pro Lustre blusher in coral. I decluttered this one. This is the last one. No, it's not the last one that I decluttered. I did a pretty good, like pretty strict blush declutter. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting to see that some of the things that I decluttered are a bit higher up. So this one, I wouldn't say is coral. I would say it is more of a Barbie pink. It is a nice formula. It's a beautiful baked blush formula, but it is just way too pigmented and bright for me. I feel like if you would have a deep skin tone, like a cool tone deep skin, this would be gorgeous. In itself, there's nothing wrong with this blush. It's actually a beautiful blush, but it just doesn't work on me. The color doesn't work on me. If this were a little bit less pigmented, or the shade would be a little bit lighter, I would be really into it. And there is still a chance that I am gonna buy one of these blushes. I'm gonna buy another shade, because it actually is really nice, but I just couldn't wear it. It was just unwearable for me, so I decided to declutter it, and it's just lower in the ranking because yeah, I couldn't wear it. Next up, we have the blush that I'm wearing today. This one is actually not that glowy. I put it underneath some other glowy products. So this is the Kiko Milano Blossoming Beauty Let me see, what is the name? 3-in-1 All Over Stick in 04. So I usually really like the 3-in-1, 4-in-1, whatever it is, All Over Sticks by Kiko Milano. The one they had the year before, it's like one of my favorite cheek formulas, but this year they tried to do something a little bit different. They kind of tried to mix it up and I wasn't a big fan. In the end it looks pretty good, but to get here was a bit of a hassle. First of all, the packaging I don't like. It's more of a lipstick, but it's too drying to be a lipstick. They wanted it to look more like a chubby lipstick. I don't like it for the cheeks. It's just the places where you apply it, it's too precise and it kind of sticks there. So the formula kind of sticks there if you apply it like that. But it is too small, this is too small to put a brush on. So the only way I have found I can kind of get this on my cheeks in a proper way is to apply it on my hand. That is what I did today. And then take a brush, get it off my hand and then put it on my face. But I feel like that's a bit of a hassle. It's not something I like to do. I feel like it is unnecessary, an unnecessary step. I would like to not do that because most of my cream products don't need that kind of thing. So I don't really like that. I don't really like it. Also, I feel like it's a little bit finicky. It's a bit harder to blend out. It is not as easy. You can already tell when you apply it like this on the cheeks and then try to blend it out, it kind of sticks. It's just not as blendable. It's not as nice as their more chubby, shorter 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 all over sticks that they usually do. So I hope that they're gonna go back to the formula they had before that was a little bit more almost like powdery in a way. Still creamy, but a little bit more powdery. Not as kind of like weird and slippery, but at the same time it sticks as this one. So I wasn't a big fan. It's still in my collection, but mostly because I put it in the wrong spot and forgot to declutter it with my blushes because it wasn't in my blush little basket. So yeah. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. It's a bit hard to see because I put a lot of like glowy things on top, but I'm not a big fan. I think it is okay. It's an okay product. You can make it work with a little bit of work. So then one blush I actually decluttered. It's not a bad quality blush, but I gave it away because I felt like someone else could use it better, and for me it wasn't special enough to keep it in my collection. So it's like the okay, I found it. The Kiko Milano Ultimate Glow Blush 02. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. That's why I gave it away to someone. It is quite a nice blush. It's glowy, it's cute, it's nice, but it's pretty basic for someone who has this many blushes. I feel like if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of blushes, you want to try a glowy blush, see if it's something for you. It's really nice. It's really nice. I would recommend it actually. It's a nice formula. But for me, when I opened my drawer, it wasn't really jumping out at me. So that's why I decluttered it. And that's why it's kind of in the middle. To me personally, as someone who has tried so many blushes and that has so many blushes, it wasn't special enough. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's a really nice blush actually. Then next up, I put the Kiko Milano Festival Glow 3D Blush in 02 Golden Peach. Once again, nothing wrong with this. But for someone who has this many blushes and who has tried this many blushes, it is just not that special. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this formula. It's actually really cute, but I just feel like I have something like this. I have things like this and I didn't really need to keep it around. I didn't need this to take up space, and that's why I decluttered this actually, and that's why it's in the middle. I feel like if this were a more interesting shade, and you can't help it that you're just a peach with a golden sheen, and we have seen you 1,000 times before, but it's just not special enough for me, so that's why I put it in the middle. Another blush that I bought for the wrong reasons, the Catrice Blush Box Glowing Multicolor in It's Wine O'Clock. So I bought this because I didn't want to pay shipping. and that usually doesn't really work out. So this is kind of a nice glowy wine nude blush, and I really like this formula. I really like the shade. I think it's a cute blush, but it got kind of ruined in my bag somehow. I don't know how, but the packaging just looks pretty bad, and I just didn't really feel like using this. There's nothing wrong with this. If you have a smaller blush collection, I am sure there are people that really love this, and I could have really loved this if I was in a different point in my makeup journey, but I just have too many blushes. So that's why I decluttered this one. But it's a good blush. It's a good blush. It's a nice blush. It is a pretty shade. If you like a cool tone kind of nude but deeper blush, it's a bit glowy, then that is a nice one. Then next up we have the Kiko Milano Blossoming Beauty Multi-Finish Floral Blush in 03 Lovely Mauve, and this is actually a really nice blush. I've been getting more into this. When I first reviewed it, I was like, it's pretty boring, not that interesting. I do have to say the blush formula and the way it looks on the cheeks and how perfecting it is and the soft glow, it is really nice. It is just not the most groundbreaking, crazy, surprising type of blush. It hasn't blown me away. It is nice. It is nice. I would recommend it. Like, the packaging is cute, the embossing is cute, it's a beautiful shade, but it just wasn't like a standout this year. Then next up, this one is actually quite a standout. We're getting into the standouts actually. So this is the Essence Everlasting Blooms Lip and Cheek Stick, and this is a cream stick product. This is a beautiful kind of like corally bright pink shade. It's really easy to apply, really easy to blend out. I don't have any complaints about the formula. The formula is really nice, and I have used this quite a bit. It is just a very hassle-free product. The only thing that I don't really like about this product, and that makes me not use it as much, is that it isn't really like closing right. I just feel that it isn't really like stuck in there, and if I would put it in a makeup bag now, it would just fall apart and like smear this cream stick all over. It would be all over my bag. I can already see that happening. And what I love with cream stick products is actually to take it with me to places because they're so convenient. I always throw them in my bags, just take them with me, they can't break. I think that's really nice. So this doesn't have the convenience factor, and that's why it's a little bit lower. It's also quite a bright shade. It's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. It's not an everyday shade for me, but it's a good formula. I think Essence actually did a really great job. Their limited editions sometimes have some strange products that I don't love, but sometimes as well they do pretty great things. So I'm glad that I tried this one. And then we have a Colourpop Super Shock blush, a glowy Super Shock blush in At First Blush, and this is a cool tone pink shade with a golden glow. And yeah, I just think that this shade is so absolutely cute. I don't even remember what collection this was from, but this is kind of like the blush color I didn't know I missed in my life. Just a cool tone with a warm tone. I'm someone, I like that mix of warm and cool. I really think that can make a makeup look really interesting. And yeah, I actually really like this blush. I did say at some point that I had some problem blending it out. I didn't really know what it was about, but it felt a little bit finicky. But later I had the same problem. I had some like spots on this cheek that were maybe a little bit drier or a little bit uneven, where blushes kind of got stuck, but I had to do with more blushes. So in the end I decided that this is just a really nice blush, and I really like the shade. It's pretty natural on me. It's not like crazy pigmented. It is not like this Kiko one. It is just like softly pigmented, a beautiful glow. It doesn't look crazy. So I'm quite a fan of that one. Then next up I put the Lethal Cosmetics Glowy Blush. I don't know what the name was of this collection, but this blush was called Ornamental. I think this is a beautiful blush, a beautiful shade, a very glowy, very glowy. But the reason that it's a little bit lower and I didn't put it in my favorites is because it is very pigmented and I have to be careful. And because of that, this is not as convenient. And I just love I love products that are just so easy to apply. I love doing an intricate cheek look in like 3 minutes. I don't know what it is about it, but the more convenient products are nowadays, I just keep reaching for them, and I feel like I kind of stopped reaching for this one at some point because it was just a little bit finicky. I just had to work a little bit too hard for it, but that does tell me that if you have a deeper skin tone, then this is actually a really good one. And I would honestly, if I wouldn't have this many blushes, if I didn't buy blush for quite some time, maybe I would like to try another shade of this, because this is kind of like the deepest shade, not the brightest, but the deepest. There's a red, there's a orange, and there's a light nude shade. Maybe I would like to try the light nude shade to see if I like this formula in a different shade even more. It's a beautiful formula, absolutely, but for me it's just a little bit too much work. Alright, the last one before we get into the top 5. This is the Velvet Touch Creamy Stick Blush by Kiko Milano. And this is actually the perfect cream blush formula. So easy to use, so easy to blend out. It is just gorgeous. I have no complaints. It stays on long. It is the most easy cream blush formula out there. But this shade, although it's a beautiful glowy shade, it is a bit nude for me. I just like a rosy cheek, and it's a little bit on the nude side. So I did tell you about this in my favorites. I am gonna put this in spot number 6, and I'm gonna tell you that this is amazing, but my personal preference is something that is just slightly brighter, but that's on me. And it's not that it makes me less excited, I just know that I could be even more excited if this was a rosy tone. And I feel like I have to try more of this. This is so good. This is so good if you want a nude glowy stick cream blush. This is like, check out these Kiko ones. This is only 10 euros. 10 euros. You get so much product. I don't even know. Like, so much product. You would never use this up. It would take you years and years and years. It would take you such a long time. So it's like great value for your money. I would highly recommend it. I am just excited to try another shade. I just really want to try another shade. Then one that feels kind of like cheating a little bit, but I am just telling you about all of the blushes that I tried this past year. I also told you about Essence the blush. Well, I already tried that formula before, but I feel like this would get way too complicated if I like made these rules where some blushes can be in here, some blushes can't. I mean, I also already tried a Super Shock blush, but this to me is something like really different in a way than what I tried before. So I'm just gonna like show you everything. And in the 5th place, I have the Kiko Milano Silky Blush in Rose Garden. And one of my favorite blush formulas of last year, and one of my favorite like videos, one of my favorite collections by Kiko and overall of last year was the Charming Escape collection. Such a gorgeous collection, and one of my favorite blushes. Wow, that was a long sentence. I feel like I kind of got lost there. I feel like that was too much for my brain to comprehend. But one of my favorite blushes of 2021 was the Silky Blush in Tasty Peach. And it was a very bright, kind of orangey, burnt orangey peach. It was a gorgeous shade, but quite bright for me. So I decided to pick up a rosy shade as well. And this is still very warm, to be honest, but it's more toned down, more rosy. And this is just such a gorgeous blush formula. It is perfecting, it is glowy, it is just stunning. The packaging is stunning. Just every time I wear this formula, I feel like my cheeks look so good. I love this kind of formula that is not like, wow, that is glowy. That is in your face glowy, but this formula that just makes your skin look amazing, and where you're just like, wow, I have a good skin day, and it's just like all blurred out. I absolutely love that. So that is why this is in spot 5, even though it's not like a new formula and packaging to me. I'm still excited to have this blush in my life. So I put these two LYS cream blushes at the same spot. These are the Higher Standard Satin Matte Cream Blush. I have the one in Inspire. This one is the kind of burnt coral shade that I think is really cool. My favorite shade. And I have the shade in confident. I feel like I've had these for way longer than this year, but I think it was like the start of the year that I tried these. This is a beautiful formula. These are also very affordable. Like, I paid like 15 euros each or 16 euros each for these, but they are really hard to come by. I have to say, Cult Beauty doesn't really restock these a lot, which is pretty sad. Can't get it on the LYS website, but this is a gorgeous formula, so easy to blend out, beautiful shades. It looks very natural, creamy on the skin. I never have any issues with these. They're just really easy to use. These are my favorite like pot cream blushes. They are really, really nice. Okay, so in spot number 3, I think this is actually kind of interesting, but this is the Happy B-Day Bellezza Baked Blush in 03 on Movement, and I mainly based this on the start of the year when I just got this. I use this so much, and it's such a beautiful baked blush formula. It is such a beautiful baked formula. It is so glowy. It is not like extremely pigmented, but it is very glowy and buildable, and it does look like a blush, but it's not as scary as some really glowy, very pigmented blushes. And this always looks good on me. It always looks natural. It always looks beautifully glowy. I never had any problems applying this. I feel like this one is the more user-friendly version of this one. So this is kind of like the same. How can I show this to you? I feel like it's kind of like a similar kind of shade, and not exact dupes of course, but there is similar kind of vibe, like this kind of warm mauvey glowy thing. But oops, things are falling down. Okay, but this is way less pigmented, and in this situation when it comes to this blush, I actually am really happy about that, because I feel like I can't really do wrong. I can't really go wrong, but it's not like it's just a highlighter. It's not like it's so lightly pigmented that it's basically like applying a highlighter. I'm a big fan of this because it's just so easy. Don't really have to think about it, but it is gorgeous. It is glowy. It looks stunning on the cheeks. Then this one I almost put first. Almost, but then I realized that I couldn't because I hadn't used this enough. And my number one spot, what I have in my number one spot, I have used so many times throughout the whole year. So the Kiko Milano Sweet Affairs Duo Cacao Blush in Ruby Cacao. So this is the other duo that was in the Sweet Affairs collection, and this is my absolute favorite of that collection, and my number 2 overall of the blushes that I tried this year. So this is the same concept. We have a satin kind of peachy pink blush, and then we have a cool tone pink kind of bright glowy blush to kind of mix it all together. I think that this is a gorgeous cheek product. This is kind of soft, kind of nude, kind of natural, but when you apply this on top, it becomes like deeper, more glowy. The cheek really pops, and I just like combining these and just mixing these together and making this really nice cool toned pink glowy cheek. And to me this is really something different, something I hadn't had in my collection before, and I feel because of that it's really inspiring to me as well and really exciting to me as well. Before this I was kind of scared of really cool toned, really light blushes. I felt like it wouldn't really work on me, but because it is still pink, I feel like this is the light nude for me, for my preferences, for my skin tone. Like usually people would take something like this, like a very light nude, like very brown with a little bit of a sandy undertone. Doesn't work on me. This is what works on me. So I'm really excited about that. After this I also tried some other light pinky shades that I really liked, but in face palettes. But this did make me reach for those kind of shades in other places in my collection as well. I think this is gorgeous, especially putting this one, the satin one, is kind of like a base, and then putting the cool tone pink on top. I think that is gorgeous. These are beautiful, absolutely beautiful baked products, like a beautiful baked blush duo. It really got me a little bit outside of my comfort zone and just added something to my collection, and that makes me really excited, and that is why it was almost in the first spot. But what is actually in the first spot really deserves to be there, and that is the Clinique Cheek Pop Pearls First up in the year, I bought the shade Coral Pop, and I was so impressed with this one. It was so fresh, so glowy. It just looks amazing. It just looked amazing on the skin. It looks amazing on the skin. It just has this glow all throughout. It doesn't have chunky shimmers. It just looks like beautifully, naturally glowy, radiant. And it just has the right amount of pigmentation. I never have any problems applying this. I think this is such a cute shade. And because I love that one so much, I got the shade Ruby Pop as well. And this is just such a beautiful kind of red shade, like a light red with a little bit of a pinky undertone. And I think this looks so beautifully like sun-kissed, but it can also make you look a little bit like you've been out in the cold, in the wind. Kind of depends what you want. It is just such a beautiful amount of pigmentation. I feel like sometimes these kind of reddish pink blushes just have too much pigmentation for me and they start looking a little bit weird. This has never looked weird on me. I think this is an amazing formula, amazing blushes. I could even see myself grabbing more. I already loved the Clinique Cheek Pops. I already had 3 shades of their regular line, but these Cheek Pop Pearl are like what my blush dreams are made of. My absolute favorites. Maybe even in my collection, but definitely for the past year. And yeah, that is gonna be everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe. And let me know what your favorite blush of the past year was. Is there something that I should check out, try out? And then I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.